In this video, we're going to continue with our use of Microsoft Excel to perform the paired samples t-test. And after we've calculated the standard deviation of the difference scores, we can then calculate the standard error of the difference scores, and when those are located in cells I1 and I2 respectively. The next step is to calculate the average of the differences, and so that average, the difference between pre-test and post-test for the first participant, the second, third, fourth, all the way to the eighth participant. And that equation we're just going to type in here. And so this is going to be the mean difference, and I'm going to give that label here. I'm just going to widen this column out a little bit. And I want to go ahead and type that equation into cell I4 beside our label here. And so what we need is we need to add up all the difference scores, and recall that we had already done that here. So the first participant had a difference of 2 units. The second participant didn't differ at all across the pre-test and post-test, so they have a difference of 0. Participant 3 saw a decrease in the value. Participant 4 saw an increase by 1 unit in their value. And so we had already calculated the summation across these differences, and that's in the numerator, and we just need to divide it by the sample size. So I'm going to start by hitting the equal sign. I'm going to find the cell that sums up all the different scores, and we had done that previously right here in cell E10. I could have just as easily have typed in the number 25 into that cell, or just click the cell that has the value 25. And I'm going to divide that by the sample size, and that's what we see here in the denominator. Now I know the sample size is 8. I could type in an 8. I'm just going to choose to click the cell where I had previously calculated the sample size. And I hit enter, and what we see here is that across all 8 participants, the average difference was 3.125 units, and the positive value indicated that there was a decrease across pre-test and post-test, because in our calculation of a difference, I'm just going to highlight the cell and go up to the formula bar, we did B2 subtract C2, or pre-test subtract post-test. So a positive value would have indicated a decrease across pre-test and post-test. So that's our mean difference. The next statistic is to calculate the actual t-value in our final equation. So I'm just going to type in t-value as a label, and I'm going to put that value in the cell right beside it. And it's the average difference scores, which we had just computed a second ago, and I'm going to divide that by the standard error of the difference scores, not the standard deviation of the difference scores. And those are separated by the different labels. So I'm just going to hit the equal sign. I'm going to find the cell where I have those mean differences, and that's right here. And I'm going to divide it by the standard error of the difference scores, and I have that value in this cell, and I hit enter. So what we have here from this study is a t-value of 3.41565. The next step is to determine if this is statistically significant by computing the p-value. And so I'm going to move down a couple of cells. I'm going to give it a label. And in the cell beside p-value, I'm going to ask Excel to calculate the p-value associated with this t-statistic right here. And the specific Excel command for that is I first need to hit the equal sign. And I'm going to use uppercase just to distinguish the different commands that I've used so far. And the command for this is TDIST for t distribution, and then I shift 9. I open the parentheses, and there are 3 items that we have to enter here. The first one is the actual t-value that we had calculated, and I could type in the actual value, or I just click the cell that has that value. And I hit the comma. Now the next item we have to enter is the degrees of freedom. Once again here, I could type in the value which we had determined to be 7, or I just click this cell here that contains the 7. I hit the comma, and the last item is the number 1 or 2. By default, we always like to go with the number 2, and that indicates that it is a two-tailed t-test. So I'm going to hit the number 2. Now I can shift 0 to close parenthesis, and when I hit enter, what we see here is that we have a p-value of 0.0112, and that indicates the degree of statistical significance. And so if we had set up an a priori alpha level of 0.05, then what we would see here is that since 0.0112 is less than 0.05, then we would conclude that there was a statistically significant decrease in the measurements across pre-test to post-test. If this p-value was greater than 0.05, then we would conclude that the decrease across pre-test and post-test was not statistically significant. So whether we determine and make a statement regarding statistical significance all hinges on the initial alpha level, or the type 1 probability rate that was previously established for this particular study. So this ends our third video on how to use Microsoft Excel to perform a paired samples t-test.